Hey guys, it's me. I'm back. I'm going to share another story with you called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And when you look at the cover of this, it says Daily Wolf at the top. So it's supposed to look like a newspaper. This would be a newspaper that was distributed among the wolf community. And this says The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And it says, as told by John Skizga, illustrated by Lane Smith. The true story of the Three Little Pigs. So another version. Let's see what this one is all about. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. Look how cool this is. Do you see when they started the story? They used the elements that the pigs used to make their houses for one of the letters. You know how we talked about playing with our words and our writing? That's a really cool little thing that they did here. And then down here, there's a little stick. Pretty cool, right? I'm the wolf. Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. So here, this time, we're hearing the story from the wolf's perspective. The wolf is the one telling the story. And he says you can call him Al. And here he is. And if you look at what he has on, what schema do you have for that? Where do you think he might be telling this story from? You guessed it, jail. So he's saying that this whole story that you've heard all this time isn't true. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. So he has a little board and he's showing you about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Here's his arm. He's pointing to his board. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time land, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold, and I ran out of sugar. Seems like a pretty nice thing to do, doesn't it? To make a birthday cake for your granny. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So here's the wolf, and he's walking down the street with his measuring cup, and he's looking for some sugar, or so he says. And he comes across the first little pig's house that is made of straw. So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell right down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw. So I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger, just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. Ding dong! I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Woof, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail, Woof's honor. Now, you know how food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" Do you know what that rude little porker answered? "Get out of here, Woof. Don't bother me again." Look at the Woof, how full he's getting because he ate 2 little pigs. And now he's at the house of the third little pig who had built his house of bricks. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me 1 little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig! I was just about to go home and maybe have a nice birthday card instead of a cake, but I felt my cold coming on. And I huffed and I snuffed. Shoo! And I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, "And your old granny can sit on a pin." Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down this pig's door. And the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. So this is it looks like a newspaper, and the big heading at the top says Big Bad Wolf. So what is this all going to be about? How the wolf is big and bad. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all of that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. So, what do you guys think? This was written from the wolf's perspective. This is the way he's telling the story. Who do you believe? Do you think the wolf is telling the truth and he was just looking for a cup of sugar for his dear old granny's birthday cake? Or do you think the little pig's version is the true story?